All right, welcome. We are live. Let me turn my sound off. Everybody share this out. Share this out, share this out, share this out. Turn the sound off on my phone here that I didn't do. Running a little bit late. See, there you go. I'm already getting notifications here. Running a little bit late. Sorry about that. Everybody share this out, please. Share this out, share this out, share this out. I'm live. It is Tuesday here in Australia. I am in New South Wales, Australia. Let me make sure that everything is off here on this phone because I'm important. I carry more than one phone. Not important. Not important. Just have a phone for the Australia and for the Americas. So my Australian phone is more international than my American phone. Okay, so share this out, everybody. Please share this out. Share this out. I'm going to share it out as well. We are live on YouTube and we are live on Facebook. It is Tuesday morning. Over in Australia, it's 10 o'clock in the morning in New South Wales. It is 5 p.m. in America on the East Coast of the United States. And there we are live. So I'm going to share this out. Share this out, please. While I'm doing that, everybody share this out as well. We'll get some people in here. Say hello in the chat if you're here. Otherwise, I just see numbers and I don't know who's in the audience. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are watching this, all the chats will go into the central chat, so I'll be able to see that. So today we're going to be doing a spiritual Q&A. I'm trying to do it at different times because I'm trying to see where we can get the most coverage for people to be able to come in, to be able to get questions answered. A lot of times, because of the time period that I do it during the week, normally, like right now it's 5 p.m. on the West Coast of America. That's, 8 p.m. on the East Coast of America, which means that it's like 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, something like that, over in the UK. So nobody in Europe will probably be hopping on. However, it is 10 o'clock in the morning in New South Wales, which is 8 in the morning over in the west side of Australia. So it's not so bad for Australia. A lot of people in Australia are not able to tune in when I go live at 8 a.m. to go live at 3 p.m. in the United States for my Friday podcast. We were doing a Zoom call off of air on Wednesday in the United States, which would be Thursday here in Australia, but I decided to start going live to talk to you guys and bring things up right in the frequencies, 8 p.m. Eastern, right? Good to see you. So welcome from the YouTube channel over there, right? Yeah, so it's 8 o'clock over in the East Coast of the United States. So welcome aboard. So if you have any questions, let me know. So spiritual, I'll talk about anything though. If you have questions about anything, I'll talk about that. I am a life coach, spiritual life coach, minister, theologian, Reiki master, medium, a channel, right? So if you guys are out there listening to me, this will be live on the MP3, or not live, but after the recording, I will put it on the MP3 file out to the rest of the world. So you guys listening around the world, oh, Leanne, welcome. I haven't seen you for a while. It's been a minute since we talked, right? Yeah, so welcome. Something about your writing the frequency, the way you wrote it, the way you spelled it with frequency. I was like, that's somebody I know. That's somebody I know. Welcome. So, yeah. So what was I saying? So yeah, if you guys don't know me out there, those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, it's not live, so you can't ask questions in the chat, but you can get a hold of me for questions. If you want to email me, you guys can email me. There's a couple of different places that you can email me. One is I can do it into my business email. You can email me at Merlin and Maeve, Merlin like the magician, Merlin and A-N-D, Maeve, M-A-E-V-E, like the goddess, like the sorceress, Merlin and Maeve at gmail.com. That's our company, my wife and I's company. So you can mail that. We're also Reiki master teachers, and we will be putting together, for those of you in New South Wales, Australia, which is where I am currently, where I'm going to be staying, hopefully, until we decide to start traveling around the world. But Brooke and myself are going to be doing Reiki classes coming up starting in November. We don't have the exact date. I think it's the second weekend in November. We'll get that stuff out to you guys. So if you're anywhere in New South Wales, we already have 2 people that are going to be in the class. We're thinking about maybe limiting it to 6. We're going to do Reiki 1. We're going to do a 2-day event, but also we're going to be the first weekend in November, November 2nd. We are going to be back at the Mystic Moon Fair, the one that we were just at. We were just at that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now. In Gosford. We will be back to that, so I'll have that up. It's on our Merlin and Maeve page. I'll be posting that. I think I have that commercial up on my page. If not, it'll be up. So we will be there doing Reiki on the 2nd of November, and I will be channeling as well again live, and we'll hopefully go live from there again like we did last time, so that you guys around the world can see it. Those of you on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, you'll see that live as the event happens. Those of you that listen on the MP3 broadcast, you'll hear the recording afterwards. Once I'm done being live, then I'll upload it to you guys so you guys can hear it around the world, right? So again, we used to do the Zoom calls off air, and a lot of people didn't want to be on air to ask questions because some people worry about what's going on in their families, hearing about them becoming spiritual or possibly alternate spiritual practice from what their family members are used to. I was brought up Roman Catholic, so being, Wiccan and being a Druid, especially a Druid priest, I had to kind of keep that away from my mother, who was Roman Catholic. And then when I was knighted by the Roman Catholic Church back in 2004, I kind of had to keep the title of Merlin quiet from the church, because then they would excommunicate me. But I left the church anyways in 2006. I think in 2006, might have even been sooner than that. resigned my office as a knight and an officer. I mean, I'm still a knight, but I resigned my commission as an officer in the Knights and moved on to do what I'm doing now. So now we're moving into the second phase of things here on this earth, and you're hearing a lot. In fact, there was a woman that we were just watching yesterday who was channeling things and actually brought a message from one of the galactic councils, not the galactic council, but the councils that are attached to the galactic council. There's a lot of councils that are attached to that, where they have a group of people down here, boots on the ground on Earth, to help with everything that's going on around here, in this sector of the Milky Way galaxy, but specifically on this planet, because of this planet being the test subject for this college graduation, as it were, with the new way things are going to be done. So there's a lot of us that are here, many, like billions, believe it or not, billions of souls that have come to this earth in the last 60 years have come here specifically to experience this change in this new way that things are going to be done. Instead of having a cataclysm to destroy the entire planet or the majority of the population, we're actually not going to do it that way, except for the evil people who think they own this planet haven't gotten that message, and they're trying to ramp up the Third World War for all it's worth. They need status quo, because people like me being awake is not something that is conducive to their plans of their legacy that they've been continuing, that they've been doing, and that they've been running. I'm going to share this out to a few more places. And everybody who comes on, you guys should share this out too. So I know that that might sound insane to some of you. It might sound a little crazy to some of you, and that's okay that it does. It's not an information that every single person is ready for on this earth. So it's one of the reasons why most of us kept ourselves hidden from you guys for as long as we did. Actually, many generations, truly. And in this generation, a lot of us did the same thing until it was time to not anymore. And it is time to not anymore. So in the last few years, you've been hearing myself and many other people starting to come out and talk about things or what's going on here. That's why I wrote the book right there, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, talking about what's going on here. And it's not something that, and then we're showing that, and I've been showing that it's not something that's new. It's not something that is a lot of people say, oh, that's a new age concept and a new age ideology. It's actually not. It's actually the message that is in all of the scriptures, all of the Bibles, all of the religions of the earth throughout all of time. And the only way that they can combat that was first to say none of those are true. And now they have to say, well, the Anunnaki invented all those religions just to get everybody confused. And so they're all fake. And the Anunnaki, which is a fake made up name, because the scholars proved that by reading the dictionary of things that they found for the Mesopotamian people, that language, those words, Anunnaki is not one word. It doesn't mean a race of people. It's actually two words, Anunnaki. And Sitchin translated it wrong in 1948 and said Anu-ki. Forgot about the word Na, just ignored it. Anu must be the god Anu from the Akkadians, the Greeks, because they had a god called Anu, and Ki means come. So the god Anu came to Earth and taught everybody stuff. That translation was in 1948. That translation was used by Prometheus in the History Channel by Giorgio Tsoukalos, and he said the god Anu. Then that was in 2012. In 2015, Giorgio Tsoukalos then changed it to those from the heavens came. The word Anunnaki now was those people, an entire species. That was in 2015. So after that, it just kept growing, and then they added it to not legally, but the ancient aliens people added it to the pantheon of the Mesopotamians, to the point where people were calling Marduk now Marduk Anunnaki, like it's his last name. So now the gods that were written about in that scroll, they're claiming were actually Anunnaki. Weirdly, because the Mesopotamians claimed that scroll was a Greek scroll, and that it was Greek based on an older scroll. And then when you talk to the Greeks about it, they say, yeah, that scroll was like another 1,100 years old, but it wasn't ours. We got it from Egypt. And then when you trace it back to Egypt and you say this is a scroll that they said traces back to you, they say that's not ours either. It came from an older society that died out a while ago, and it's very possible that they were the Atlanteans. And then everybody says all of a sudden the Anunnaki was the Atlanteans. And now the Anunnaki was everybody. And they just plug them into everywhere. The Nephilim are now the Anunnaki. The archangels are now the Anunnaki. God is now Anunnaki. Thor was Anunnaki. Everybody was Anunnaki now. And now the lizards, they used to be the people that were reptilian, were on this earth and had been here for 2 million years, and they ruled the place. Now, nope, forget about the reptilians. It was the Anunnaki. The reptilians were part of the Anunnaki collective. So now the Anunnaki is this hybrid bunch of people that are a bunch of different races that are together. And weirdly, they used to say the Anunnaki used to come here every 3,000 years, and they were on planet X, planet 10. And that whenever that planet got close enough, they would come over here. And when that got poo-pooed because the planet came around, they said, well, we have a twin Earth on the other side of the sun, and that's where they are. And they only come here every 3,000 years. And then they proved that there was no twin Earth on the other side of the sun, nor was there a planet over there that we can't see. So they evolved like the flat earthers. They just start evolving their theories, and so that it fits their narrative. So, the flat earth does the same thing. So now the Anunnaki created us and everything else and everything. And this is a penal colony, and be careful. Don't go into the light, because when you go into the light, there's machines that collect your soul and zap your soul and make you erase your soul. And then they put you into a body again because you're in a prison. Sorry, my cat's at the door screaming because he wants in. Eventually he'll get tired of screaming and he'll go lay down somewhere. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear him. He's out here screaming, wants to come in. If I let him in, he'll be up here walking around and knocking things over. So I'm not letting him in. Okay. So tell a little truth with many lies. The Anunnaki if anything at all, the people down here on Earth who pretend now that they're related to the Anunnaki are actually leftover Atlanteans. So now the Atlanteans are Anunnaki, except for no Atlantean that you channel will tell you they were Anunnaki. Weirdly, no one ever mentions the word Anunnaki from anywhere other than here on Earth, by the way. The Galactic Councils don't talk about Anunnaki. That's a catch-all phrase down here, like the Illuminati, like the Bilderbergers or the Deep State or the Skull and Bones, or those are just names that are down here for a group of people that are bad guys in the universe. There was a group of people that came here that were bad guys, but they didn't call themselves the Anunnaki. They actually called themselves the Orion Crusaders when they got here. And then they called themselves, I'm trying to think of what else they called themselves. In 1948, 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. It used to be 1948 until the timeline changed. It's now 1947. Roswell, New Mexico, that crashed a UFO that didn't happen, quote unquote. That crashed UFO didn't have a survivor who was a gray alien, who the entity who was controlling the gray alien as a drone was a female, and she didn't call herself Errol, didn't have a conversation inside of Roswell, New Mexico's military base, and didn't channel information telepathically to a nurse who was capable of communicating with them for the deep state and the CIA and the military intelligence of the United States of America, because none of that happened, quote unquote. And I didn't do 25 episodes about that information that was given from that woman whose name I won't mention, McElroy, who, that was her alias, by the way, who killed herself because she was dying of cancer. And so she, blue juiced herself when she was not in Scotland or Ireland. And it didn't happen somewhere around 2014 to 2016. And she didn't have information that she gave to reporters who ended up correlating it and putting it together into a video. And I didn't get a copy of it, and I didn't do 25 episodes about that. And in that, there wasn't an alien species who came here to Earth who had already left Earth by 1948, who was giving information about what was going on as they were sailing towards the center of the galaxy on their conquest. And she was remotely controlling this craft, or this bioskeleton robot that was a gray alien, and giving information. Nothing spectacular except for telling us that we were prisoners and that there was an old guard who was here that they were defeating, who were reptilian, not Anunnaki, that were reptilian, that they were doing it. And some people say, well, they were the Anunnaki. Weirdly, she didn't call themselves the Anunnaki. She called herself something different. And they had left the Earth, and they weren't staying here anymore, because the Earth they had already robbed from all of the materials that they needed to feed their war machine, and they were heading towards the center of the Milky Way galaxy on their conquest. And this was a stop-off point, a gas station, somewhere where they stopped so they could reorganize and fuel up and get some more weapons and stuff. And then they went forward and headed towards the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So nowhere was there ever mention of Anunnaki until Giorgio Tsoukalos in the History Channel started talking about Anunnaki, and back in 2012. No one in the history of the world had that word written down anywhere except in that scroll from Mesopotamia that Zecharia Sitchin translated in 1948, and no one in any scholars or any historians that understood the language of the Mesopotamians ever said that Anunnaki meant anything that came from outer space, and they still haven't. But it's caught on, and it's okay because it's a catchphrase, because there were evil aliens who came here twice. So that did happen. There was actually aliens who came here more than twice. So the History Channel, with their ideology, is not lying about that. They just embellished more about everything being 3D because they make money off of it. So they fit everything into the category of third dimension very well. And the people who came here, but there was more than that came here, that have been here on this planet, none of which are our slave masters, none of which created us. This entire creation of the Earth wasn't seeded by aliens in third dimension at all. But that's okay. That it's all right to believe that stuff. It makes money, and it has good ratings here on Earth. So that's why people tend to use that. At this point, they're not caring about, they keep talking about disclosure And I've noticed that if you go to different countries, you'll find that in their country, whatever you go to, they say everyone else in the world knows there's aliens except for our government. They say that in America, they say that here in Australia. And when you're in America, it says the people in Australia already know that there's aliens. You come over here and they're doing the same thing and talking about disclosure. And they're saying, our government hasn't told us yet, but the American government has already told their people. When you're in America, they say the Canadian government has already told their people. When you ask Canadians, they're like, I don't know what they're talking about. They said the same thing about Germans and French and all these other governments. And I know people around the world. So I asked them, does your government already come out and told you that there's aliens? They're like, hell no. Your government did, though. No, it didn't. So part of the cover up about this is that every place you go, every country, they say everyone else already knows that aliens exist, except for our government's not telling you about it. And no government has officially acknowledged it. There's not going to be any kind of disclosure. Every disclosure project is making too much money. They're not going to disclose anything to you. The governments are never going to admit anything to anybody because there's money to be made in it down the line. So they like the idea that you're concerned with aliens and you're chasing aliens, because chasing aliens is kind of like being a theologian and chasing scrolls instead of the actual religions and the message that are in the religions. So as long as you're chasing aliens, you're chasing your tail, so they can just keep you running around in circles and go Anunnaki, Anunnaki, Anunnaki. And then when you don't believe that, they'll come up with another one. That's what they've done so far. They'll go, no, it was the Atlanteans. No, it was the Arcturians. No, it was and then they just start naming different aliens and telling you that they did it. And then you just run after them. It was the lizard people, and they can cloak. They can morph themselves and make you believe they're human when they're really not. And if you look at them, only on camera, weirdly, you can't look at anybody in person and catch that. You have to see them on camera. And then when the camera glitches because there's something wrong with Wi-Fi, then they go, see right there, you were seeing that was a glitch from the camera. That they've been doing that forever. They've been lizards forever. But no one ever sees that live. Well, it's because it's really good live. And then they have a theory that just evolves with cameras, and it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with the camera twitching and freaking out a little bit because they lose a signal for a second. But that's why. And if that's the case, how come nobody has like captured somebody who's a reptilian and took pictures of them as a reptilian, right? It's the same thing with the firmament because of the flat earth. You know, they have this theory, but nobody's ever been able to film it, weirdly. Go there. You can't. Well, then how do you know it's there? Because some guy in a boat and his entire crew in the 1700s were immune to it. Really? Only them? Nobody else since then? Why is it just that the entire crew happened to be immune to that so they could sail to the firmament? No, people were sailing to the firmament all the time. No, back when there was an ice age, people were sailing and finding the land masses that were frozen and then thinking that went all the way around the world. And it didn't. People didn't sail back in like they do now. People would tell you there was just nothing. There was a time when Ragnar Northbrook was sailing and wanted to go west away from the mainland of Europe. And the king forbade him to do it. You are forbidden to do that because there is nothing to the west. You're going to fall off the edge of the world. And he just ignored that and did it anyway because he had information that Leif Erikson had when he went to Iceland and Greenland, but came back because what? There was a mini ice age that had happened. So they came back. That there's a lot of people that have now talked about that. The people who came to America, the Vikings who came to America, and that they ended up leaving America because the first wave got killed by natives, and they came back and went to war with the natives. This is actual history now. And then they left and they went home because what? It got too cold. It became a mini ice age. And so they pulled back to Europe. Same thing happened with Iceland and Greenland. And then eventually people started moving out again around that time when Ragnar was doing it and Bjorn after him. They started going out into the world a little bit more. So they basically discovered England, who was already there with a 15th century or 12th century at the time, 11th, 12th century monarchy that was living there. And they were like, nothing is west of here. So all of that is just folly. All of that was just a little mini ice age. And now we're having global warming. So if you had a mini ice age that just ended not too long ago, you're going to have a warming now, right? And so they're lying. They were saying that we were all going to freeze to death until one day they said we were going to melt, right? So you have to realize that most of this is disinformation. that is going to be put onto you, or has been put onto you by all of these yahoos from around the world, right? And it looks like, oh yeah, see, you guys are over there on Facebook. I'm going to have to go on Facebook. I forgot I went live on Facebook, so I can't see the chat. And Facebook, you guys are over there talking to me, and I can't see it. So hold on, let me go over here and actually go into the chat so I can see you guys, because I'm in the studio, and that's my bad. I forgot. Let me go and turn off the sound. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now I can see you guys. And I'm sorry, I apologize for not being able to see you. My wife was even in for a second, right? So you have to realize, I'll go back and forth now. I forgot about that. I didn't go live on Orion Rising. I went live on my page. So you have to realize that these governments around the world are lying to you about what's going on, because they've been controlling everything in the narrative here on this earth for the entire time. You're never going to get disclosure. You're never going to get that they ever saw aliens, or that there was actual aliens that came here or do come here, any of that, because they're keeping it a secret, because they're trying to get all of the information and technology that they can, so that they can get ahead on the earth and control the earth. That's the truth of it. They believe that they're descendants from these elongated skull people. That you guys don't realize that. Let's go with politics for a second here. You guys don't realize that Lucifer, who has been added to the Satan pantheon as the same person, Lucifer, according to the actual Luciferians, not Satan worshipers, not Satanists, Luciferians, all of the rich people who are the elites, who are all related to one another, who are in control of all the governments. Little girl back in 2016 or 2015 did that research on her own and found that everybody just in the United States, except for Martin Van Buren, I just found that out the other day. I was like, I don't remember what president it was. All presidents of the United States have all been related, including Donald Trump. And then in the documentary in 2017, which I think it came out in 2018 now, because the timeline has changed, of Above Majestic, they continued that research and said, well, if all the American presidents are related, what about all the monarchs of the world? And they found out that all the monarchs of the world currently and in the past have all been related. So those of you who are in Europe, you already know that, because they were marrying into the royal families. But that goes out to every country of the world. All of them are cousins. All of them are related. Okay. And if you don't believe me, look at World War I and World War II. World War I and World War II was cousins fighting over control of Europe. And they were trying to kill each other, and they went to war. World War I, World War II was monarchs, kings, who were cousins trying to kill each other. You can look that up. That's actual history. Okay. So they have put themselves into power, and they claim that they're descendants of Luciferians, that Lucifer was a person, and that they were aliens who came down here to Earth. And they apparently crash landed. Well, they must have lost all their technology, right? And then they say they created the human race prior to that, and then they've been ruling down here. So a little bit of truth in there. But the lie is that they created the human race. They came here. They were the Atlanteans. They were the descendants of the Atlanteans. And they're now starting to realize that on the History Channel's crazy stuff, okay? That they were because now they're Anunnaki. They were the Atlanteans, and there was a civil war in Atlantis, okay? And when that civil war was over, the good guys won, not the bad guys, okay? And this is in history. You can look up in history that there was the War of the Gods, quote unquote. Then people all over the world talked about the war on the sky of the gods, with spaceships flying around. Well, you look at the Hindu Vedics, you look at the Bhagavad Gita, I always say that wrong. And then if you look at the Germans, they talked about it. All countries around the world talked about this war that was going on in the sky that was happening. And it wasn't just, meteors running around. They were calling them Vidmanas. They were calling them spaceships. So there was a war that happened. Ask the Aborigines in Australia. There was a war that happened. And that was the civil war in Atlantis. And that was when the Atlantis fell. That was when the 40 days and 40 nights of the flood, because they had screwed up the atmosphere here on Earth. They had messed around with the 3, 6, and 9. They had fractured all of the crystals. Ask the Aborigines, they'll tell you there was a group of people that would fly with crystals, crystalline energy in crystal ships. Okay, those people got into a civil war. The good guys won. The bad guys were left here as a penal colony. They were left here because they tried to destroy the earth. The earth flipped over on its axis. You can look all this up in history. The Romans talked about it. The Greeks talked about it. Everyone talked about it who still has history from their people. Even the Egyptians talked about the day that the sun rose in the east and set in the west, then rose in the west and set in the east, then rose in the east and set in the west. The only way that happens is the planet flips over on its axis and flips back up on its axis in a 48-hour time period. That, because they were messing around with the magic of 3, 6, and 9, the mathematical equations of 3, 6, and 9, and the realization of that, which a lot of people have now figured out in science. Then they don't mess with it, but they will eventually, and they'll start screwing shit up. They stop the Earth's core from turning, and the molten lava, the mantle, continued to move on inertia, and everything on top, the crust, shifted with it, and the Earth itself became unstable and flipped over and flipped back over, and all of everything changed, and all of the North Pole moved, and everything moved, and then that screwed up our ionosphere, where there was trillions of decaliters of water in our ionosphere. That's the reason why somebody with a little teeny telescope could see Mars and the lines on Mars and see all the things that we can't see until we have this big, huge telescope up in space, because all the water that was up here in our ionosphere then leaked into the Earth, and it took 40 days and 40 nights of that water raining, and we had a sea level rise of 500 feet. That was when Sodom and Gomorrah sank into the ocean. That was when the cities that Shiva lived in over in India sank into the ocean. That was when Atlantis sank into the ocean. That was the deluge of the Hebrew Bible and everybody else around the region that still survived, where they talked about the flood, where the earth sank. It was the sea level rising 500 feet. Science has actually proved that literally the sea level rose 500 feet in a month and a half, okay, on this earth. That killed off most of the population. If you look around the world right now, most of the population of the world lives on the coastlines of most countries around the world. We tend to do that. Because why? Because the coastlines of almost every country are either tropical or they're green belts, and then the fishing and the trade and all of that happens from there, because no one had flight until the modern era after the collapse of the human calamity of 77,000 years ago. Everybody was low-level technology with nothing but, animal skins and boats. So because of that, we had to build the society that we have now. Now we have flight. So because of that, people are living more into the interior of countries because they can fly around. It takes less time than to walk or to ride on horseback or whatever to get out of there. We have technology again. So there was a civil war, and the bad guys lost. They got stranded here, left behind by the other faction who left, took the technology and made sure that they were imprisoned. So the story that you get about being imprisoned is what they had happened to them. They were imprisoned and stuck here. So they moved around the world, and they made sure that they put themselves into a position to be in control and gain control of every single region of the planet. And it's taken them, 10 generations or so to get themselves back to space. And now they've bred with humans so much that, here's the thing, the Anunnaki, the superior DNA of the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the Anunnaki, their superior DNA with their elongated skull and their big brain and all of that was bred out of them by breeding with these lowly humans that they supposedly created. So here's my theory, right? It's not really a theory. Let's talk logic, right? I'm a chemist. I was literally listed as a chemist for 10 years in the United States. So if you have the chemistry of DNA, and I have my superior DNA that I'm mixing with primates on the planet to create a dumb slave race that I can control mentally, okay? Those people and that primate should be beneath my genetic code, so that if something happens and we're in control and we're breeding only with our brothers and sisters, which is going to degrade the gene pool as it stands anyways. They should have known that, but didn't seem to care for a long time. Then they started breeding with the primates on Earth, and weirdly bred out their superior DNA. Okay? It's no longer this elongated skull and this big brain. Now all of their descendants, that are here who kept breeding with the dumb animal that they blended their DNA with, if that's true, they should have been able to withstand that DNA and not end up breeding the DNA of themselves out, because the DNA of the humans was half theirs. So their DNA can't even withstand to the primate DNA, apparently, and the primate DNA was more superior to their DNA, because those people with the elongated skulls and the big brains who were in charge of this world, who all the Luciferians claim to be descendants of, all of that DNA has gone away, and they are now mostly human. The dumb ape that they claim they created by mixing their superior DNA with a monkey. Okay, so that doesn't stand up in the chemistry of genetics. If they were the master DNA that created the human race, their DNA would be stronger than the human DNA, not weaker. They would breed their traits into the people that they bred with, not the other way around. And they have lost their DNA and gained mostly human DNA now. So all of those people look exactly like us and don't have to wear miter hats anymore to hide their elongated skull, because they no longer have the big brain and they no longer have an elongated skull. They are Homo sapiens sapiens. Okay, so that suggests that their DNA was never stronger than human DNA. In fact, it doesn't just suggest it, it actually demands it on the whole DNA scope things. If you have strong DNA traits and you get together with me being a man, I get together with a woman, if she has stronger DNA traits than me, our children are going to look more like hers, because her markers are stronger and they're going to have a stronger DNA line. My traits are going to be bred out, or the other way around. Okay, this is simple genetics on Earth. The dominant DNA strand will take the dominant. It could happen that you have a recessive. Okay, but 10 generations is all that it has been. And in 10 generations, the only way you breed a person's DNA out that much is because the DNA they keep breeding with is superior to theirs. So they keep telling everybody that they're superior at DNA and they have the superior intellect, but they don't. They're human now. Okay? They look just like I do. Well, maybe not, European male, but they look just like I do. Okay? So, it's Woo Rider. Welcome, brother. Woo Rider. Right? No, we're doing good. I hope you're doing good. So welcome this week, right? He's over on YouTube. I have to go back and forth so they can see that. Okay, so I've talked about this before. Like I said, ask questions. Let me put that up on in the studio here. Let me put the banners up saying ask questions in the chat. So you guys ask questions and share this out, right? Share this out to other people and ask questions. Okay, so you have to realize that their DNA is not superior like they claimed, because if it was, they would all still have elongated skulls. Unless they're trying to hide from people and they're using cloaking devices because of their superior DNA, and they can make you think that they don't have an elongated skull. They wouldn't be able to hide it on film. Okay. They would have to have like super technology to take away their elongated skull and make them look like we were, normal to all of us. Do you see what I'm saying? If I were one of them. So, they have the technology. If they had that technology, they would have space travel too, and they would have been gone a long time ago. They wouldn't worry about this place. Okay, we're not the frickin' end all to be all in the universe that everybody wants to conquer. Okay, there is no God sitting on one mountain and a devil sitting on the other mountain, and they're equal. And the human race is the ultimate prize in the universe. That's arrogance of children who think that they're more than they are in the universe. The entire universe was created for humans, and it's just waiting for us to gain the technology to go out there and conquer it. All of that is just waiting, and no other life form was created anywhere else, because God didn't do that, because God only created his chosen people. And if you're believing that, then you have to be Jewish or you're going to go to hell, because only the Jewish or the chosen ones ask them, they'll tell you that. Weirdly, who else is that? The Dianetics people claim they're the chosen people, by the way, and the Mormons claim they're the chosen people, by the way. Let's see, who else claims that they're the chosen people? Every single race claims they're the chosen race, that some God told them they were the chosen race. Every one of them does. The ones in South America, over there in the South American continent, also had some God tell them they were the chosen race. So everybody's God told them they were the chosen race. No, and wars have been fought over who's the chosen race, right? So I was watching with my wife. We were watching The Chosen just the other day, right? And Suzanne, is this being recorded? I was stuck in a Zoom meeting for an hour. Yes, it is being recorded. It will be on here. I am recording it as well, and I will put it on the MP3 broadcast so that you'll be able to listen to it. But the MP4 broadcast will still be on my page and on YouTube. It is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it and from the beginning if you like, after the live's done. So once the live's done, even if you're in the Facebook page, Suzanne, and it says this live ended, if you refresh your screen and go to my Facebook page, it will be there. And if not, you can go to my YouTube channel and it'll be there. And if not, you can then listen to it wherever you listen to an MP3 broadcast of any podcast app that you listen to on there, and I'll have it uploaded there. So you can find it there. Okay, so you have to realize that everything that they're telling you is contrary to the facts. Okay. They're claiming that when you die, you have to run away from the light, because if you go to the light, it's going to zap you. And there's machines out here that catch you. It's because you're in a prison that was set up by third dimensional beings so that you are stuck here in this place. So they tell the little truth with many lies. There is a little bit of truth to that. But it wasn't created by a third dimensional race. Everyone keeps saying that, and they keep upping their game and saying who it was that was creating the human race. If you look at even the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's a couple of those. The Book of Truth, the Scroll of Truth, for instance, will tell you that Error created the human race. And Error was a female goddess, not a third dimensional being, by the way, didn't have physical form. But it's people in 3D automatically pull them down to third dimensional beings. You have the same thing that happens. There's a lot of these videos that are out there that will tell you about the creation of the universe and the creation of the human race and all the other races. And it's all human, weirdly. All races, from the perspective of the humans, the alien races, are all bipedal, humanoid with different faces, like the Lyrans. They're all human, except for they have a lion head, right? A cat head. Then the Draconians, the lizard people, weirdly bipedal, except for they have lizard. Well, they were all created by the Anunnaki. So yeah, okay. So if you listen to these creation stories, the Anunnaki has only been around for, first of all, it's only been around on this planet for about 20 years. But even if you say that the Anunnaki's been around for 1 million years, which weirdly they took the place of the Draconians, who were supposed to be here for 2 million years or 5 million years on the earth, and the ones who are actually in charge now, they've been taken over by the Anunnaki, or they are the Anunnaki. So now the Anunnaki are the Draconians. I don't know. It evolves every other week in that whole pantheon. So then there's videos out there that were made by AI that will tell you that the creation of the universe were these. In fact, they got to the Patal. Weirdly, they got to the Patal after people like myself and Alex Coulier were talking about the Patal. Then all of a sudden, the Patal got popular and got into the mix, and now the Patal are the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki just move in to be whoever they need to be, and they move up. The Patal came from the 11th density. The Anunnaki are in third dimension. So if the Anunnaki are third dimension, how could they be 11th dimension and be third dimensional beings that are flying around in spaceships? Because the Patal were and are 11th dimensional energy. Let me say that again. The Patal are 11th dimensional energy. They're not third dimensional beings. they can come down to third dimension, and with their mind, they can project to you a third dimensional being. So let's see how quickly it takes the Anunnaki to evolve into 11th dimensional energy beings who are just projecting their minds into third dimension. That'll be the next thing, because that's already been out there, because the Law of One talked about that, where Ra, who they are in the 5th dimension, by the way, they said that they were mostly light beings, but they were using their mind to project themselves here 12,000 years ago. And soon the Anunnaki will be the Ra from the Law of One, and that they were now the Anunnaki is going to evolve into that. That's what has to happen next. So so soon the Anunnaki are not really going to be third dimension. That's going to have to be a construct, a mental construct, because people are upgrading their idea of spirituality and start moving into 4D and 5D. And as that evolves, they have to explain that, well, that was also us, the Anunnaki. So quickly, we'll see that happen. So Marduk Anunnaki, who was a god, who is now has the last name Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki is now on the pantheon of the gods of Mesopotamia, not technically or legally, just added by History Channel and Prometheus onto that, and then floated on the internet because it makes them more money. But the actual scholars in the world, in history, disavow that and say that's not a thing. The word isn't Anunnaki. The word is Anunnaki, which means the prince, not alien, not God, not someone from another planet. But don't take my word for it. Find the actual scholars that know the language, and you guys make up your own mind. Do a little bit of work. They count on you not doing any work or looking anything up for yourself. So I tell you, do a little bit of work and look things up for yourself. Okay. So did aliens come to Earth? Yeah, absolutely. They're aliens here now. Most of the people in the population that's on this planet are aliens. Not physical aliens. Not physical aliens, but the soul that are in most of the bodies that are here is not from here. They're not indigenous to here. That's normal for any planet, just so you know. Let's talk about that. Let's get into spirituality now that I've been online. How long have I been here? An hour, right? How long have I been here? 47 minutes. Let's get into spirituality and get away from the crazy, weird politics stuff, right? But those two have to work together. You guys don't realize that. People go, we need a separation of church and state. You do realize that the people who started that whole thing, separation of church and state, were the people that their religion is state. They're the ones who did that. They don't want the churches telling them what to do. They want their church to tell the other churches what to do. Okay. You have to realize that. The realization, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled wasn't to get you to think he didn't exist. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to get you to think that the religion of evil was Satanism. Okay. The religion of evil is politic. Okay, that has to do with power, money, control, and the caste system that is set up, that is controlling every part of your life, every aspect of your life. Your school that you go to, the job that you work at, the structure of the societal structure of the entire human condition is set up with a pyramidal system that is a maritime pyramidal system that is set up by your Anunnaki. It was actually set up by the Phoenicians. And that's where you get the word Venice from, the Venetians. They're descendants of these Anunnaki that you talk about, the descendants of the Atlanteans. But they weren't Anunnaki, okay? You should look into that too. Ask Thoth, those of you guys who channel Thoth, Thoth, however you want to say it, whatever dialect you use to say that name, Thoth, the Atlantean who was here on Atlantis, who was part of the winning team of the Civil War. If you guys truly are channeling Thoth, ask Thoth what race they were. Okay? I'm not going to tell you Anunnaki. Not going to tell you Anunnaki. Okay, so because Anunnaki is not a race of beings, doesn't exist. So those two are the religions of all these other religions, and the spiritual way, the practice of that spirituality that was on this earth and still is on this earth is opposed to politics. That religion is the true religion of evil people. Okay? That is the religion of evil people. Because every single person who's narcissistic, every single person who's in service to self, every single one of them subscribes to that religion. Power, money, fame, control. That is controlling everything. Okay? They are somewhere on that list of bottom run evil to emperor of the world evil. Okay? And depending on how much, how many, what cojones they have, how many stones they have, will determine how far up on that list they're willing to go to gain power and control. Okay. So the lesser evil they are, because the less stones they have in their crotch, the lower they'll stay on that run, and they'll just take what they can get. The more cojones they have, as we say in America, the further up that run they'll go. If they can get themselves into the royal families, they will. Okay. So you have to realize that. So now let's get into the spiritual aspect of things. Where's the truth in the lies? The truth is, and I tell you guys this over and over, and I'm not the only one. If you look at all these religions that they claim they created to control you, the things that they created are things that they can't actually control. So why would you create something? They must be really stupid, because the thing that they created is just like some of the Hebrews say that Jesus never existed and he was created by the Romans to control people. Okay. And if that's the case, they created something that took control of their own empire. It took control of the world. So that means they were stupid. They're morons, because they created something that they couldn't control, and the people and the masses, it took on a life of its own and took control. The same thing is happening with the spiritual practice. That way in which these prophets around the world have been telling you how to ascend, that they claim they created to control you. Okay. Let's run down that list of what they claim they did. They claim that every single religion on the face of the earth was created by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki gave you all of those religions to give you hope, so that you wouldn't understand or see what was happening here and wouldn't know that you're under their control. Okay. So if that's the case, then why is it possible for every single person who is not in service to self, not part of their religion, why is it 100% possible for every single person who is not under their control to wake up by following said fake religions, and in doing so gain access to a knowledge that allows them to then see through the lies that these people are telling, who are their slave masters, who were given a fake false religion so that they would never figure anything out? Why is it possible, 100% possible, that every single person who listens to the actual message from every single religion on this earth and understands, not understands, but understands that message, why is it possible 100% for all of those people to gain access to a knowledge that allows them to change something within themselves, to gain wisdom, to be able to see through the lies that these people, their supposed masters and creators, who created them to be dumb and be able to be slaves and never figure anything out? Why is it that 100% of the way and time is it that every single human has the ability to gain access to a knowledge that allows them to see through their lies and to no longer be under their spell? So again, this superior DNA with a superior intellect created, supposedly, if all things are true, created an entire species of people who were supposed to be completely not under their control, but under their control 100%, and never supposed to wake up or be able to wake up to know what's going on in the world, and always be a slave to them. Yet their DNA is no longer findable because it was bred out of them, and the very slaves that they incorporated, supposedly created, their DNA is superior and has taken over their DNA, and the very religions that they created to distract everyone and control everyone took actual control of the population and has woke up the population to the point where the population no longer is listening to or being duped by these very people with superior intellect, superior DNA who created everything to enslave everybody. And they're in fact waking up to the knowledge that none of what they're saying to them is accurate or true. How is that possible if all things are equal and all things are exactly the way they claim them to be? 100% not possible. So history proves that the Luciferian DNA is not superior to the human DNA, which means it was not the DNA that created the human DNA, because the human DNA has replaced that DNA in every single person that has bred with humans. It has been bred out of those people, and the human DNA has been bred into them. So those people did not create this race. Their superior brain that was larger and their IQ that was double has shrunk, and it is blended with the DNA of the population. And one would then say, well, that's the reason that everybody has been upgraded in the human race, because it was bred with them. That's not true. Science is actually now onto the track that it's been the psilocybin and the DMT. It's been the blue lotus, purple lotus, mushrooms, THC, peyote. It's been all the drugs that humans have been taking, that they've been eating, that has enhanced their brain and made their brain grow. Had nothing to do with alien DNA getting into their DNA. It has more to do with humans have more DNA in common with mushrooms than they do any other DNA on the face of the earth. You can look that up. That's not me making that up. That's not fringe science. That's actual science saying that it looks like mushrooms and us, like humans and pigs, have more in common. So then the evolution has to then be, we have to end up having the evolution of the Anunnaki will now say, and the people who believe that will have to change their minds and say, truly, they used a little teeny bit of their DNA, and it was that humans are actually part pig and the mushroom, because of the something about the growth factor. You'll find some DNA things that they say that pigs and mushrooms together with a little bit of Anunnaki DNA is what made the human race. That's what they're going to have to evolve into next. They still don't have a theory for how the Anunnaki Luciferian DNA got bred out. Okay. So they're going to have to change their theory soon, because the knowledge is coming out to the world that their DNA is not superior. Their brain is not as big. It's small now. It's the same size as the human brain. And that us was not an upgrade from their having their DNA mixed with the human DNA. We got an upgrade from all of the drugs that people have been taking over the centuries, expanded the consciousness of the human genome and changed the human DNA. It had nothing to do with aliens coming down here. It had to do with the stuff that grows here that we've been eating and smoking. Science is actually now saying that. Not fringe science. Actual science is going, okay, so apparently the humans were eating more mushrooms and purple lotus than we thought. It was embedded in their religions, because the people who did eat them, it affected their brain and it upgraded their DNA. Why do you think they call it high? And their vibration rate rose, and those people got smarter. And then they said, here, take this. So the story of the Garden of Eden and eating the fruit of the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, if you read the original stories, that wasn't translated the way it is, to where women became evil and had to be slaves to men because of it, and that women are just evil because they listen to a serpent, listen to a snake in a garden, and therefore now women have to have pain in childbirth and PMS, and they're supposed to be second-class citizens and don't get to vote and have to walk behind us and cover their heads and their faces and their bodies and shut the hell up. That's why they did that. That was to control. That was to keep the feminine away from the earth as much as possible, so they could keep people closer to lizard brain, because people are easier to control when their DNA has them. The maturity level is somewhere between 11 and 14 years of age. Take the feminine energy in females out of the equation and shut them the hell up. That's how you keep men in that lizard brain. And that's how you keep them more violent. And that's how you do that. The second that information from the feminine, the females, started becoming more prevalent in society, society got smarter faster. And then, of course, eating a bunch of drugs helped with that. But the as soon as the integration of the feminine energy, not just the DNA of the feminine, but the feminine energy itself, in that Kunda buffer energy, started getting introduced into equality in around the world, we evolved a lot faster, and we still are. Okay, so for those of you who are women out there and you're thinking, about that kind of stuff, you should. Okay, because that energy that you guys possess as a female is a different energy than men. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You should look at that book too. It kind of gives you an idea of the differences between the sexes and how they're wired in the brain. But that doesn't matter, because most of you on this earth, now let's get back to the spiritual, because most of you on this earth, I can't say 100% all of you, because some of you are brand new and you just got here. You might be here for life number 1 or life number 2, but the majority of all of you on the earth have been both women and men, depending on what lifetime that you were in, whether you want to believe it or not. That's the truth of it. So let's get away from that whole politics thing. However, I know I spent an hour now talking about it. The truth is, if you take a look at things from a scientific standpoint, everything that they're saying about the Anunnaki doesn't work. Everything they're saying about the Luciferians and the Illuminati being superior DNA doesn't work, because their own DNA has shown that they are becoming more and more human. And they have. Over the last about 1,000 years, 2,000 years alone, they've become more human, not the other way around. The families who claim that they are descendants from these elongated skulls had to start attaching themselves to fake gods that they claimed were fake. Okay? I'm not making this up. The King of England and his mom before him claimed to be descendants of Thor. Thor. Not like Thor Oldendal or Thor Johnson, some king in Norway. Thor, the god of thunder. Okay? So at some point, they had to attach themselves to the very gods they tell you are not real. Think about that. Look that up. I'm not making that up. Look that up. They will tell you that they are descendants from gods. The very gods they will tell you don't exist, because there are no gods, because the Anunnaki created all these religions. The very people who claim to be descendants of the Luciferians with this elongated skull that they've been trying to hide from you will claim that they're descended from gods now, because they can't say that they're aliens anymore, because nobody wants to believe that. They can't say they were Anunnaki. They can't come out and tell you that, right? Why wouldn't they? If they're actually descendants of the Anunnaki and the Anunnaki are real, why are they not now just going, we're your creators? You're absolutely right. We own you. We're your creators. Why are they still hiding that? Because they can't prove it. Because the second they say that, then people are going to go, so then aliens are real, which means that you really don't have any power, because somebody from another planet could come here at any time, and they would go, yes, so that's why we have to create one world government. But people aren't going to listen to them. For the same reason that if Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene and had children, the church in Rome, like Dan Brown's What If book that became a movie, the Da Vinci Code would have to happen. Because if Jesus had descendants on this earth and you could prove it, who would they listen to? All of the Christians, the 3 or 4 billion souls on this earth that say they're Christians. That means somebody who follows Christ. Who would they listen to? The church in Rome or the descendants of Jesus? They can't have the descendant of Jesus being found or walking around on the earth, because it would take away their power. They would have to kill him. They would have to. Otherwise, they would already, if they knew about it, they would say, here's the real person. They would try to integrate that person, get a hold of that person, and hope that that person saw things the way they did. If Jesus had children, and if they were in truly his DNA and had his traits, he would be kicking over tables. They would be kicking over tables. Okay? Because the church in Rome is not teaching what Jesus was teaching. It was changed by Constantine, the First and Second Council of Nicaea. Okay, so it's not what it is. And then even AI is saying that. There was a woman who asked that question. I was asked that question, and my answer was, if Jesus were alive today, he'd be kicking over tables and saying the message to the world would be, you missed my message. You missed what I was trying to tell you to do. It shouldn't have been a religion. It was supposed to be a practice, a way of life. And you were supposed to ascend to heaven faster than you're doing. The church is slowing you down. They asked AI the exact same question. People are doing it all over the internet. They're asking AI the exact same question. And the exact answer that I gave is the exact answer that AI is given. You're missing the point. You guys are missing the message. You didn't understand what I was saying, and you've forgotten. 2,000 years later, you've forgotten the message. Okay? So the truth is, if there was descendants of Jesus and when they were teaching his message, they would say the same thing. There's books out there that claim that happened in history, and that the Pope in Rome sent troops to murder all of those people in the south of France. You can look that up. I'm not making this up. That's historic. People in the south of France claimed that the religion that in Rome was usurped, and it was wrong, and it was evil, and it wasn't the way that Jesus was teaching. And that they had a religion in France that was just what Jesus was teaching, because Mary, when she disappeared from Jesus's assassination, came to the south of France and started teaching what Jesus was teaching, and started the church and continued the church there. And that those people continued teaching the way Mary was teaching them, the way Jesus wanted it to be taught. And when they spoke out against the church in Rome sent their knights over to the south of France and murdered a couple of million people. That's history. You can look that up. That's history. I'm not making that up. Do your due diligence and find out about that. That's what Dan Brown based his book on, was the 4 books that were written about that. Okay, Holy Blood, Holy Grail is one of them. You can look that book up. Mary and her Knights is another one. You can look that book up, right? The book of Magdalene, of Mary Magdalene. You can look that up and read that. Even if you think that's all fake, look it up. Look up the history of the south of France. Ask the people in the south of France who today parade a skull around saying that it was Mary Magdalene's skull, that she came to the south of France and she continued teaching. They say that to this day in the south of France, in France, to this day. Look it up. Ask the French. They'll tell you. And then there's going to be people that will go, there is no definitive proof. We've done DNA scans on that, and we can't trace that back to Mary Magdalene. They don't want to trace it back to Mary Magdalene. They can't, because if they do, there's mitochondrial DNA. Okay, there's DNA from the mother, and that means they can trace the DNA by testing people around the world. And if they do that and they verify that that's Mary, they'll also verify that Mary had children. If they do that and they can find somebody who's genetically linked to Mary, then they can look at the father's DNA, because you can do that now. You couldn't do that for a while, but now you can do that. And then they could trace that back and find out if that belonged to Jesus. They don't want any of that, because if that's the case and they can trace Mary Magdalene, then that means they can trace Jesus. And if they can do both of them, they can find out if they both have children. Because if they find the DNA together, that means that they had children. They can't have that. Can't have that on the earth. Have to not have it. Why? Because they're trying to say they're related to the people who were in charge. And when that doesn't work, and they don't get you believing that aliens don't exist, then they say that gods, who they claim are not real, that they created to distract you, that they're related to the gods. Okay? Why is all of that? That means the same thing. Their theory of how they have control of the earth changes to fit the narrative of how they need to tell you that they're in charge. Do you understand that? First, it's their superior DNA that came here as aliens. Then they're the Anunnaki. And then if you don't believe in any of that, they defer to what? Well, we're the royalty descended from the houses of whatever houses that you They'll even say they're Hebrew, they're Jewish if they need to tell you that, because you're a believer of the lost tribe of Israel. We're the lost tribe of Israel. If you don't believe that and you're just Christians, then they have to go with the house of David and the royal bloodlines. And then if you go, well, I don't believe in royal bloodlines, then they'll go, God, we're related to gods. Whatever you'll believe is what they'll tell you they're related to. If you believe in aliens, they're part of that alien. If you don't believe in aliens, we're gods. If you don't believe in the gods, except for the one true God, then they'll say that they're related to the Hebrew families. But they won't tell you they're related to Jesus, because the Roman Catholic Church, which controls more than 25% of the population, won't allow it. So they have to continue to go around in circle, and that's what they do. Superior DNA from a different place. We're in charge. We own the earth. We're gods. Whatever they need to tell you. And if you don't believe in any of that, they're just like, shut up, we own you, because we're in charge. So if you're a secularist, it's shut up, we just own you. If you believe in aliens, you're right. We're the aliens who own you and created you. I don't believe that, but I do believe in these gods. Well, we're one of those gods. We're related to one of those gods. They change and evolve their storyline to fit every narrative of everybody that believes. So if you listen to the Luciferians, they're Luciferians, came with Lucifer. They were part of Atlantis. Now they're Anunnaki, and they're Thor and Odin, and they're Shiva, and they're all these other gods that we all came here and we created the human race, but our DNA is superior to your DNA. But can you prove that? Because your DNA has degraded. It's all been degraded. It's degrading from the DNA just from the 1500s and the 1200s to now. And you guys have lost your half of your brain size mass down to our same size as ours. And your skull, which was a lot bigger, that you guys all were hiding for a long time. We actually have the actual skulls of elongated skull people that the ancient aliens people worked for almost 20 years to finally get a hold of, and DNA test, by the way, that they were hiding. That DNA is not mixed with any human DNA. Okay. And so far, we haven't been able to find that. And if we do, I'll pretty much guarantee you it will be the Luciferians who claim that their DNA is the superior DNA. And you're going to find that they probably have 1/32 of that DNA now, which again proves that their DNA was not superior, so they're not the creator DNA. They're a species that was also humanoid, that had a bigger brain, that evolved somewhere in the universe close by here because they got here. Okay, so it's very possible that the petri dish that they're claiming we are is where they came from, and they're probably the petri dish, and they were probably created by someone who had our DNA, because our DNA is superior to their DNA. Our brain is smaller, so they're trying to claim that we were created to be stupid so that they could control us to mine gold, the thing that's supposed to be the most precious in the universe, yet we have more of it on Earth, and there's no one else here. If this was the most precious planet with the most precious commodity in the universe, there would be a lot of 3D fighting going on for control of this planet. Okay, and if somebody was strong enough to secretly control this planet and keep everybody away, we would know about it in some way, not these rumors. There would be fighting going on, because if I were another 3D race and I were in another not on this world, and this world had the one commodity that we all needed, and like the spice from Dune, Arrakis, I would be attacking and coming in here to get it. I would be sneaking in here like a pirate ship and trying to get it. Oh, but that's probably what's going on. Now they'll evolve the story and say, of course, that's what the alien spacecrafts that everybody keeps seeing that's coming in here are pirates coming down. And weirdly, because they were talking about every DNA, every alien species that has come here so far, that has came to Earth, that didn't happen, that didn't talk about why they came to Earth, didn't, in fact, say that they were here for a DNA upgrade. Because that's what they all said. The Greys, when they were here and they were talking to people, when that didn't happen, when the CIA didn't talk to gray aliens, and when the deep state of didn't talk to gray aliens, they didn't say that they were here for a DNA upgrade. You know, when Whitley Strieber faked and made up his book called Communion, he just wrote that and made it all up because he was a science fiction writer. So when he wrote that and the aliens said to him, when he said, what do you guys want? They didn't say communion because he made it up. They didn't say we needed your DNA upgrade because they made it up, right? But yet all the people that are ancient aliens people, all the people who believe in aliens that are the History Channel will tell you that aliens have come here to get a DNA upgrade. Okay. So all of these people who claim that they are superior DNA and that they own us, their DNA keeps getting brought out when they get anywhere near us. And most of these alien races who claim that they're coming here for something are coming here for the DNA upgrade that is the human race. So if the human race is the stupidest slave labor race being that was created from primates on Earth, why is it that who's that person who created our DNA that everybody else wants? Because all of the people who claim to be our creators, when they breed with our DNA, they look more human than they do their own DNA. So we're the upgrade. So where are the master builders who built the human DNA that put it here? Because it's not the Anunnaki. It's not the Luciferians. It's not the Atlanteans. It's not the Greys. And it's not the lizard people. It's not the Draconians. Because when they breed with humans, their DNA starts disappearing and our DNA takes over. So where is that builder race that created us? Who is that builder race that created the human genome that this simple little mindless slave on Earth has, that is taking over the DNA of anybody that comes here? We don't consume it and become partly them. We do in the beginning, and then we breed their traits out. And then our DNA has background DNA that is from them. But we look more like us over and over. Their DNA disappears and our DNA takes control. So for a little podunk place in the middle of nowhere, created by a slave race people who supposedly are still here and keep coming back here, we seem to have a DNA that when every time anybody shows up here, our DNA takes over their DNA every single time. Okay, why is that? So I don't buy, and I'm telling you that it's not true, that aliens came down here and created the human genome from monkeys as slave races for anything. Okay, that's a lie that you're being told. I know I'm like an hour and a half into talking, almost an hour and a half into talking, right? But that is a lie that they're telling you. They're telling you that stuff because they need you to believe that so that you stay here in this place. Okay, they need you to stay here in this place and to continue doing what they're doing here in this place, keeping you stuck. Okay, why? Because it's the only power and control that they can have. They come down here to rule us and they breed out their own traits and they become us, and their own people don't want them back anymore. That's what's happened. That's what's happened. People have come here and they have bred with humans and bred out their own traits, and they can't go home because they're more human than anything else now. And so they can't go out there to the universe and go back to their planet anymore because now they are the humans. That's what's happening. Okay, why is that? I will tell you why that is. Now that we're an hour and 20 minutes into this, and most of you are probably gone because I've been talking about politics the entire time, the reason for all of that is that none of that is true. All that 3D stuff is to keep you into 3D so that you're stuck here at all costs, so that they can control you, so that they can continue to have their legacy, so that they can continue having their families being in charge of the entire planet. Okay, that's it. That's how simple it is. Okay, you're in a college, you're in a school that is normal. Let me tell you how it works in the universe. Let's talk about that. Okay, the creator of the universe created a scenario, created something. That something was turned into what we loosely call this reality. The creator created that and said, that's pretty. Creator created life, needs something in it. So you hear these old stories. In the beginning, the earth was void, or the universe was void. And then there was the creation, that there be light. And then God said, kind of like it. It reminds me of me. Let's keep it. So there was light. Then there was matter. Let's just run through the creation. Most of the creation stories claim there was some giant or some god that was killed by another giant or another god, and that they took that god's body and they created the heavens and the earths and the dome of the sky and the night, and the teeth are become the mountains and the blood became the rivers. That's usually the creation stories that, if you go back far enough, all of them say it was created because there were gods that were created out of nothingness, or a creator of the universe created the gods. Then the gods went to war with each other, and someone became evil, and then another god killed that god and used that god's body to create the reality that you're living in. Okay, so that's the way that's why the secularists say that none of that's true, because children wrote that, and that was the Thor or Odin killed the giants and used their bodies to create the world. That evolved into Thor killing the dragon of the North Sea, and the dragon came from Tiamat, who was a dragon. So Marduk and Thor are the same person, and they killed. Marduk was the grandson or something like that on the pantheon of Tiamat. And weird that the gods could kill each other. They're supposed to be gods, but they're able to kill each other, but then they don't die. They're actually asleep. So they're not dead. They're just asleep, and their physical body is dead. And then they use the physical body to create the world. Okay, so that's why secularists will tell you that none of that is true. That's stories that children are trying to explain what's going on, and they have to say that God did something and created something, so it had to be something in 3D. So you're living and eating the flesh and drinking the blood of a dead person, living on the carcass of a dead being who was this giant god that consumed the entire universe weirdly. So what was there before when that god was alive, and where did all the other gods live when they were alive? Well, we're below them, so we're living on a plane that is them, and they create. Oh, okay, so now we have gods and sub-gods and sub-gods and stuff like that. That's a little bit more accurate to reality, truly, than you think it is. Okay, so let's go with the creator of the universe created this place. Then there was nobody in it. There was life. Well, life had to have a function, had to be something to be alive. It has to have life. So life is. Okay, so what is life? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. What is life? What is life, and how did that become? Well, people have to create a God, they say. God had to create life. It couldn't have just happened on its own. See, and then you have people who say that it just happened on its own and we were monkeys, which they can't prove, by the way. There's a missing link that does not tie us back to monkeys. We don't have enough of the monkey DNA, and there are some of us on this planet who don't have any. I don't have any monkey DNA. How is that possible that I am human and I don't have monkey DNA? How is that possible? Okay, if this DNA that I have right now evolved on this earth out of monkeys or aliens that took their DNA and gave it to monkeys, how come I don't have any monkey DNA? Where did I come from? Where did this body, the DNA that is this body, the blood that is in my veins is type O negative. Negative. The Rh negative factor means I don't have any monkey. That means that I didn't come from here, created by aliens mixed with monkeys, because I don't have any monkey DNA. So how'd that happen? Is it that the human DNA is now breeding the monkey DNA out? We would still have markers that would remind us of that. I have no monkey DNA. And there's a 10% of the population of the earth that doesn't have any monkey DNA. Well, you were prisoners that came afterwards. So you were probably created in a petri dish by somebody else on another planet and then moved here onto this planet. Well, then we would have that DNA. We'd have that primate's DNA. Oh, well, because we don't have that primate on this planet, we can't find it, so we don't know what we're looking for. There's probably a marker there. They'll evolve their theory to fit that. 10% of the population has Rh negative factor in their bloodline. That means they don't have any monkey DNA. So the whole story of we humans, I look exactly like the other humans. So what are the parallels that this human we've all, well, it must have been the same people. So the Anunnaki went to another place. Now they have to change their theory once they realize that 10% of the population doesn't have any primate DNA on Earth. So that means that I was here and never bred with any Neanderthal. Okay. My genome didn't breed with Neanderthal. Well, you must be an alien. Now we're going to believe in aliens. I must have come from another place with the Anunnaki. So I was a slave that they brought down here. What, when they upgraded that DNA? Well, then how is it that I share the DNA with all the humans, but no monkey DNA? Well, because you were made somewhere else. See, so they made you, so hold on. So they made an exact another replica, another genome that is exactly the same as the one that's here, but they created this one by blending their DNA with the primate. So why is it that my DNA so much matches them except for the primate? So how much of the human DNA is the alien DNA then? Because I'm not an upgrade from those people. Actually, I am, but not in the sense that you think, right? I can breed with those people. They can breed with me. But my DNA is superior to that DNA and tries to kill that DNA because it has the monkey in it. So am I the perfect? Am I the Anunnaki? Am I those people? Is 10% of the population of this planet the actual alien DNA that the other 90% of the people were bred with? So that would suggest that I'm Anunnaki. That would suggest that anyone who has the Rh negative factor is in fact a descendant of the creators of the Earth DNA. Okay, so if that's the case, this DNA that I have is the superior DNA because this DNA is the one that's breeding out the Luciferian DNA. So the Luciferians are not in fact the Anunnaki. They can't be. Because if the Anunnaki created the Earth, the Luciferians, those people who think they're in charge on this planet right now, are not the superior DNA. The Rh negative factor is the superior DNA. So that would suggest that all people that have the Rh negative factor that do not have monkey in their DNA are descendants of the DNA who created the Earth DNA. Pure descendants of those people. Not the Anunnaki, or maybe Anunnaki, maybe I'm Anunnaki, but I'm not Luciferian because they don't have Rh negative factor in that genome. They might have some of them, but they're not in those royal houses the way that they think. Otherwise, everybody would know that by now. Donald Trump's typo negative. Barack Obama's typo negative. Barack Obama has monkey DNA. Okay. Wait, what? Can't have that. So the very people who think they're in charge of this planet, you should ask whether they have the Rh negative factor or not. You guys should all ask that question. Because that's the superior DNA. So if there was a builder race who came down here and bred their DNA with the primates, it would be the DNA that came down here. That's why the Nazis, by the way, that's why the Nazis started claiming to be the superior race, the Aryan race. They were trying to say that the Aryan people were the superior race. They were right in some senses, but it's not just Aryan people. It's anybody who has the Rh negative factor. People of every race has that in their DNA. It's not just white people. Okay, there's people all over the world that have that. Is the majority of them white? Not really. They're Spanish. Most Aryans know that. Most people who have Rh negative factor DNA know that it's on the west coast of Spain. Okay, so they're not actually German Aryans. Okay, they're Celts. They're not Saxons. Okay, so they've bred with everybody. They're not the Aryan race the way that people think. Okay, they're not. We're not. I'm not. I'm a recessive gene. You look at me and you see Aryan. So you think that I'm some Aryan, brotherhood person or something or other that would be talking about the Aryan race. Not. I'm a recessive gene. My family is dark. I'm the recessive. I got this from my mother and the recessive on my father's side. My Irish clan, my DNA is mostly dark DNA. It's Irish, English, Scottish, and Scandinavian. But I have the Rh negative factor, and everybody in my family does. Weirdly, on both sides. So if you look at the Irish people, now if you look at, like, say, the Riverdance and Lord of the Dance and all of that with the history of the Irish people, you'll see that they attribute themselves to the west coast of Spain, to being basically Spanish at one point. Vikings, West Coast Vikings, Southern Vikings, but Vikings, not Aryan Germans. But most of the people who believe that they own this planet will tell you that they are. That's why the Windsors go by Windsor now. They used to go by a different name. You should look that up. They used to go by a different name that sounded a little too German. So during World War I, moving into World War I and World War II, they changed their name to Windsor and started going by that name. You should look into that. I'm not making that up. Okay, so let's move back into what's going on. Again, now that I'm, 2.5 hours in? Right? No, just an hour and a half in. Okay, let's go back to what is actually happening here. So the creator of the universe created this place and then had to put souls into it. The creator of the universe wanted to know what it would be like to be alive, because the creator is immortal. So to know what it means to be alive, you have to know what it means to be able to die. So the creator created this because the creator is immortal. We don't know much about how immortal, where the creator is. I have theories about that. Right? That'll freak you out if I tell you those. Let's go that high. I'll go that high in a minute. So the creator created this place. So the creator says in all of the religions, created this place and then needed to put something in it, put life into it, and said, that's beautiful, like a painting, started creating, then realized there was nobody in it. This is the story from most religions. Then realized there was no one in it to appreciate it. So the creator had to create people, sentient beings. But the ecosystem had to be put into place. There has to be an ecosystem. The thing has to be self-sustainable. So it has to sustain itself. So the creator created the things that would sustain this place, an ecosystem, so that it would naturally evolve and naturally happen. And then that creates different life forms. Some people in the aliens will tell you, like Errol, the alien, said that their people were the ones, because she's been around for, I think she said 12 trillion years, and that they were the ones that they know about aliens, but they never really said three-dimensional aliens, but aliens who started companies. So you're getting the idea that it was third-dimensional, and that they created all of the animals, but they weren't smart enough to create the animals to breed for themselves. And so they were creating animals, and they were doing that for profit. So they were making sure that animals couldn't breed on their own. Sound familiar? And so then, but when animals died off, there wasn't any more. And eventually they fell out of favor because people started realizing that they're just creating them so that they would die, so that they would be able to get more money. So they got out of favor. And people stopped creating animals. And so the animals that are here are just there. But weirdly, all the animals are now breeding. So when asked about that, the alien said, well, then somebody changed the animals with a new idea and allowed them to start breeding on their own. And when they did that, then the animals just got loose and just started breeding on their own and evolving on their own. And because of that, nobody wanted to buy them anymore, because when you got them, you would have trouble with tribbles. If you're a Star Trek fan, you would have trouble with tribbles. And then the plants and animals just started evolving on their own. And then they just started taking over like bad foliage. So the companies went out of favor about 10 trillion years ago, and nobody's creating new animals. That's how they evolved that one, and we're telling you that. So that's how they could get to this. So the creator of the universe created this place, created an ecosystem, allowed the ecosystem to work on its own, to breathe on its own, to be able to evolve on its own. That's the truth of what happened here, okay? And then somebody had to be in it. Somebody had to be in it. Something had to be in it so that they could then enjoy life or experience life. So the creator had to put beings here. So the creator then, using its mind, fractured itself, created individuals who would be part of this and evolve. There was an evolutionary process that was started. Okay, this is the truth of what's going on in the universe. A tree will eventually become sentient, or it will evolve into something else when that tree dies. It is just as alive as you are. It has a soul in it, just like you do. A rock does, a tree does, a cat does, a plant does, a bird does, a snake does, a fish does. It is a soul that will become a human one day on this planet. Whether you want to believe that or not doesn't matter to me. This is the evolution of what's going on. Okay? You were at some point in your existence a one-dimensional being who evolved into a two-dimensional being, who evolved into a three-dimensional being. And that is where you are currently. Some of you evolved to a four-dimensional being or a five-dimensional being and then returned to this third-dimensional place. And that is where you are in your existence. So when you become self-aware as a two-dimensional being, cat, dog, tree, plant, animal, some sort, snake, bird, fish, dolphin, whale. When you become self-aware, then you become a human or a sentient life form on some other third-dimensional planet. But here on Earth, you become a human. You're self-aware. I think, therefore I am. Then you have moved up the food chain, quote unquote, the evolutionary process of sentientness on your quest back to the creator. Why all of this? The creator is trying to figure out how it got where it is, or it's trying to recreate how it got where it is. Okay. I'm not going to get that far up into that theory because that would freak everybody out if I did that. That's 5D. That's actually 78D conversation that I could probably have with individuals. So the creator created this place so that everybody could go through the evolutionary process to go back to the creator and live and experience that, because the creator doesn't have that experience naturally. Okay. Why? Those are questions individually that you guys can ask me and we can talk about. So the evolutionary process is you're a soul that is created and you're an amoeba or a rock or an air molecule. You evolve into something that is two-dimensional, some sort of plant, animal, something that can move about in some way. Snake, fish, dog, cat, bird, alligator, whatever, spider. Then you become self-aware. When you become self-aware and that life ends by whatever means, you get murdered by something, eaten by something, die of old age, whatever, you then are born as a human. And then you think, therefore I am. You are self-aware. Then you're on a third-dimensional place like this one where you don't get to know that you're part of the creator. Not always. Some places are different. But on this planet, you're mind wiped, you're veiled so that you don't know that you're the creator, so that you can have an organic experience of life, death, and everything in between. Hunger, starvation, birth, death, famine, floods, happiness, eating pie. All of the things that you do on this planet, you're having all of those experiences because the creator is not. The creator does not. So the creator is living vicarious through you, me, and everybody else. And the more of us that there are having free will, we can do whatever we want and we can create every variation that we can possibly imagine of a life and of that life and what we do in it and with it. while we're interacting with everybody else, which is also changing our perspective in all of these lives and all this stuff, creating good and evil, masculine and feminine, to sweeten the pot with more variations, changing DNA, colors of DNA and other races and other beings, to then have more variations of what you can and can't do, and allowing all of that to happen so that you can then go through the process of understanding, understanding, figuring out what's going on here and moving to a higher plane of existence. This is the first place that you are self-aware as a sentient being. And you're supposed to either here in this place be good or evil. If you're evil, you don't want to leave this place. You like it here. You want this stuff because you want the power and the money, the fame and the control over the world. Then you'll stay here because it's cool, because that's where you're living at. If you're in service to others and you become spiritual, you will then start trying to figure out, why am I here? What's the universe? What's going on? How do we fit into the universe? That's going to get you questioning everything. And as you start questioning everything, you start upgrading your DNA, start getting wiser. Your DNA upgrades, your brain grows, you get more intelligent. And I'm freezing. I apologize if I'm freezing on you guys. It looks like my internet was dropping for a second there and I froze. You get more intelligent, you gain wisdom, you gain knowledge, you start gaining access to a universal knowledge. So again, I go back to, if they created all of the religions and all of this stuff so that they could control people, did they also create the ability for people to access a knowledge that is actually allowing them to evolve and move away from this place and not listen to them anymore? Again, the superior DNA of the third dimensional masters, master race, master builders who are enslaving us are so intelligent and so smart that they created a system that is ending them again and being consumed. Okay. So again, their plan, their knowledge, their whole telling of what they've done here is undone by what they've done here. So no matter how many times you look at it, when you do look at everything that they claim, they're stupid because their DNA is crap. Their superior DNA and their superior brain is crap. Their misdirection and control mechanisms that they've created have taken control of them and have only served to unlock a knowledge that if they created the Akashic record to confuse us, to make you believe that you are something, all of that, they have to tell you all of that. Because if they don't tell you all of that, you're going to stop listening to them. And if you stop listening to them, you're going to find that you don't need them, that you realize they're lying, that you realize they're not real, and that you realize that they're just third dimensional children. And that's it. And you move along and you don't need them at all. And something changes. And then you get smarter, your IQ goes up, you learn more, you become more wise, and then you see things and you start to realize things and you start to remember things that they don't want you to know, they don't want you to realize, they don't want you to see, they don't want you to hear. So if they were controlling everything and made all religions just to control us, the control mechanisms that they were giving us for control, the very prison that they put you in is giving everybody the knowledge to not listen to them anymore. So they're stupid and their DNA is crap and their knowledge is crap. Okay. And literally what has happened is we're evolving past them and we're consuming them. So the creators and the prison guards and this is their Dr. Evil, and we're surrounded by two inept guards in an easily escapable prison. You just don't know it because they keep distracting you. Look over here, look over here, look over there, look over here, look over. Don't look at that, look over here. They have to continue to distract you because the very thing that they put in place to distract you is the very thing that, if you look at it, is getting you out from under their thumb and out from under their control. So don't believe a word that I've said. Believe that what I'm saying to you is a lie. believe that what I'm saying to you is false and folly, and that I'm just a crazy person telling you that you are part of the Creator. You always have been. You always will be. That you are exactly a free being who is having an experience. And the experience that you're having is the most difficult experience in this Milky Way galaxy. And it's being done for you because you volunteered for it, because you're a rock star. And all you have to do to get out of here is ask questions. That's it. Ask questions. Think I'm lying to you. Prove that I'm lying to you by going down that path. Look at the message from every single religion, every single philosopher on this earth. Look at the message that they were teaching you. Look at the message that they were trying to tell you. Don't listen to the semantics. Don't get caught up in who's the oldest, who's the most in charge, who's the chosen, who's the favorite. Look at the message in everything on this earth that has been given to you. Look at the tools of this place that have been given to you that are right in front of your eyes. Ask questions, question everything. When you go down that road and you start questioning everything and you get out of this matrix, think outside the box that you're in. When you start thinking outside the box, you get smarter. You get access to a knowledge that they can't stop you from getting access to. If they controlled it the way they claim they control it, you would get more and deeper into their control. But I tell you, truly, that if you ask questions, you will get less and less in their control, and you will become more and more free, and more powerful, more and more smarter, and your DNA will upgrade. And you will become more and more, or less and less alone, and you will know it. You will introduce yourself to your higher self. You will learn who you truly are. So for those of you who stayed here till the end and listened all the way to here, again, you're getting the secrets to the universe. Ask questions. Ask questions. Question everything, question everyone. Listen to anything that anyone says to you and take it with a grain of salt and say, I'm not quite sure that this is true. Believe that what I've said to you is a lie and go down that rabbit hole and look it up for yourself. Because when you start asking questions, the moment you start asking questions about your reality and start seeking knowledge is the beginning of unlocking knowledge that will allow you to see clearly what's going on in this world and this universe. It's as simple as that. It doesn't sound simple. If you think I'm crazy, it's not simple for you. If you don't think I'm crazy or you think I'm wrong, look it up. All right, guys, I'm going to go. I'll be back tomorrow, quite possibly, or Thursday, probably Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to try a different time so that I can hit people. Those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you guys just pick it up whenever you want, because once I put it out there on the air, it's there for you to hear. If you want to get a hold of me and you want to email me to ask questions, email me at the company email, merlinandmaeve@gmail.com. I don't think I have that put in the studio to put up on the screen. I'm going to have to do that, which I haven't done. So I will do that for the next time that I'm up. Let me check the banners and see if I have. I don't believe I have. Have I? No, I haven't. So I will put that up for you. So that's Merlin and Maeve. Merlin, M-E-R, right? Merlin, M-E-R-L-I-N, A-N-D, M-A-E-V-E, Merlin and Maeve @gmail.com. Send an email there with your question. I will return that with an answer. And if it is something that you want to talk about in more details, we can figure out how to hook up and communicate with one another. So either myself or my wife will get that email. And if it's a question for me, Brooke will say, emails are coming in with questions. We'll start answering your questions for you. I will be live on October 2nd, I believe. here in New South Wales, Australia, in Gosford. One more time, I will put the banner up in my. I'll put it up everywhere. It'll be on all my platforms. So I will put the ad up as soon as I know for sure. I think they said it was for sure. So probably today I'll have the ad up for you. So those of you who are in Australia, specifically in New South Wales, if you want to come and see me in person to ask questions, I will be in Gosford on October 2nd. I believe it's October 2nd. It'll be up on the platforms. I'll have it here on YouTube. I'll have it on Facebook. I'll have it on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Where else am I? X. I'll have all of that up again for you guys as soon as possible today. So you'll know the exact the address and the time. It will be there. I think it's from 12 p.m. till 7 New South Wales time. So if you're in New South Wales and you want to actually come and see me speak in person or get Reiki done by myself or my wife, we will be there doing Reiki all day. And then I will be, I don't know how long I'll be talking, at Doc for an hour last time. We will also go live from that event, unless they don't allow us. It seems like they're going to allow us to do that because we did that last time. We're going to go live and we'll be on air on YouTube and on Facebook again. So you guys will see me live talking to the crowd. But if you want to be there, take a look at the ad that I'll get up later on today. If you're around the world and you're not on any of those platforms, email me, like I said, at merlinandmaeve at gmail.com. I can also send you that if you're here in New South Wales, but you don't like Facebook, YouTube, or any of those places, and you're hearing me on an MP3 broadcast. Send me an email, and I can send you the address to that event and the time and all of that. I can send you a copy of the ad showing that we'll be there. You can either come and get Reiki'd by us in person, or do both. Come and get Reiki'd by us, and then come and sit and watch me channel and ask questions, or talk to me while we're Reikiing. We will be there for, like I said, between 12 and 7. I think that's what the hours are going to be for the fair. And we are planning to be there. If not, you guys can check me out in email, and we are booking times to communicate with people to give you guys more stuff, but we will be having more events where we'll be going live around New South Wales. I don't know how far away from here we'll be going right now as our base of operations. And then eventually we will expand out to come to a country near you to be able for you guys to see us live. But for now, it'll be online or in New South Wales, Australia. All right. I love you guys. I'll either see you guys tomorrow or I'll see you guys back on Friday, which will be Saturday for those of you in Australia, when I do Orion Rising again, where we're continuing to talk about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I think we're on chapter 8 or chapter 9. Don't quote me right now, of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And then when we get through that, we'll be going on to something else. All right, guys. I love you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for listening in. Share this out to your friends. I'll be back live tomorrow, probably around the same time. I think somewhere around 10 a.m. New South Wales time. I might vary that a bit. I'm trying to find out what's good for Australia and allow it to talk to you guys and answer questions because people are working. So maybe I'll shift it and do an evening in Australia time, which will be late for everybody in America and Europe, but it'll be early. It might be early it'll be early for Europe, late for America, and then early for everybody west of us. Coming this direction. So the Philippines and India and all that, you guys will be able to see me live. So I may do that and do a show in the evening here. We'll see how that turns out and what time that I'll do that at, because we're trying to get a balance for the world so people can then, those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, you guys just picking me up whenever anyways. But if you guys want to talk to me live, or like I said, send me an email, or you want to see me if you're in New South Wales, Australia, you can see me on October 2nd in person and ask me questions or get Reiki by me. And we're going to be putting together a Reiki 1 attunement class. We already have 2 people signed up. I think we're going to max it at 6, but don't quote me. We might expand that. It'll be a 2-day event. We were thinking about doing 3-day event, but we'll probably just do a 2-day event for that. We'll have that information up as well soon. Hopefully in the next week or 2, we'll have all of that information up for you guys to be able to book that. For those of you here in New South Wales, anywhere near Woy Woy, that's where I'm living in. We're currently anywhere near Woy Woy in New South Wales. You guys can come for that. We'll be conducting that here at our house. So you guys will be able to come here and do that if you wish. Contact us again, myself or my wife, Brooke, at merlinandmaeve.com, or go to Merlin and Maeve, the page on Facebook, where you can find the details and the link to get a hold of us. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great day. I'll either see you tomorrow, or I'll see you guys on Friday, or I'll see you in the chat, or you guys will get in contact with me some way, email or otherwise. Have a great day. I love you guys. Have a great afternoon, morning, or night, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show.